It's looking like Joe Flacco will make his first start as a Cleveland Brown on Sunday against the Rams. Welcome on into the Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here. Jumping into the injury news coming out of the Browns practice at UCLA's facilities as Dorian Thompson-Robinson, among several other players, did not practice today. He is still in concussion protocol. And with the Browns playing on Sunday and it being Thursday, here's what I'm going to say before we get to the rest of the injury news on Garrett and Cooper and Denzel. Flacco is so starting. There is no doubt about it in my eyes. Kevin Stefanski has not officially announced it. Joe Flacco just spoke to the media, and he's being a good soldier and he's being a good media boy for the Browns. Not saying anything too revealing, but come on. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, unfortunately, still in concussion protocol, which means we are so seeing Joe Flacco, and we have to prepare ourselves for the mental gymnastics of calling him not elite for so many years, and now we need him to be elite for the Browns. Well, not even just elite. We just need him to be a good quarterback with this defense, and the Browns can go the distance. Listen, Alex Van Pelt had some really nice things to say about Joe Flacco. I'll share now. I think there's a lot left in that tank. Yesterday would solidify that for me. Just watching him with the accuracy and the velocity, the footwork, and everything that he showed yesterday. He has an elite arm. There's no question. If you put it on a scale of 1 to 5, I'd say he is a 5. Now, why not 2 out of 10? That would be a little bit more pressing. Okay. His ball flight, his velocity on the ball at every level of the field is very impressive. He threw some balls on the scout team last week, and the guys in the back were kind of fired up. Now, this is going to be a pretty dramatic change for Kevin Stefanski in terms of game planning and play calling, going from Dorian Thompson-Robinson to Joe Flacco. I mean, look at DTR's passing chart from his game against the Broncos, right? He had one pass beyond 20 yards. One pass beyond 20 yards. Compare that to Joe Flacco's last NFL start, where he has 1, 2, 3, 4 passes beyond 20 yards. Flacco is going to want to push the ball down the field more. He's got a much bigger and stronger arm than DTR, so I am excited to see what Kevin Stefanski does as a play caller to lean into his new quarterback strengths. And listen, I know that there are one too many Browns fans out there that for whatever reason just enjoy rooting for Stefanski's demise, despite this team being 7-4 with 3 different starting quarterbacks. But this will be another Kevin Stefanski, I don't want to say like masterclass, but another like trip to the museum of football legends, as Stefanski's going to put together a really creative game plan, as he always does for new quarterbacks, to try and get them into their comfort zone. And we might see Flacco start things off with 4 verts. I mean, he had a great connection with Elijah Moore when they played together in New York for the Jets, and we have seen that connection throughout the week over at practice at UCLA. So we're going to talk more about the rest of the injury news, but Joe Flacco, looks like you're going to make your first start as a Cleveland Brown, and I can't wait for the mental torture chamber that's going to put Ravens fans in, and I'm going to call my shot right now. It is November 30th. Joe Flacco is going to beat the Ravens, Coop. Joe Flacco is going to beat the Ravens. But, Petey, the Browns already played the Ravens twice in the playoffs. Yeah. And you know what, Ravens fans, they are not going to be able to handle that whatsoever. Now, quick shout out to our awesome sponsor, Factor. I had Factor last night, and I loved, actually, the honey maple barbecue ground beef was delicious. So this holiday season, you might be looking for nutritious, convenient meals to keep you energized on jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service, can help you fuel up fast for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. Looking for special occasion meals during the holidays? Level up with the Gourmet Plus option, prepared to perfection by chefs and ready-to-eat in record time. Enjoy premium ingredients like broccolini, leeks, truffle butter, and asparagus. Head to factormeals.com/BrownsChat50 and use code BrownsChat50 to get 50% off. That's right. Code BrownsChat50 at factormeals.com/BrownsChat50 to get 50% off your first order. All of that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Now, unfortunately, the very, very sad stat for the Cleveland Browns continues as another starting quarterback will be added since they came back over 2 decades ago at this point. Joe Flacco would be the 8th starting quarterback for Kevin Stefanski. He's only been the head coach for 3.5 years now. He's on to his 8th starting quarterback, and he has an above 500 record. I mean, talk about overcoming a lot of very serious and difficult hurdles. 2008, by the way, some fun trivia here, was the last year the Browns had 4 different starting quarterbacks. Can anyone name all 4 starting quarterbacks for the Browns this year? Yeah. Colt McCoy was not one of them. Scroll on down and let me know who the 4 starting QBs were for the Browns in 2008, when they, by the way, went 4-12. Now, to wrap up the whole Joe Flacco segment, what's your confidence level in Big Arm Joe? Scale it 1 to 10. I would put myself at a 5.2. 5.2, right? I'm over the 50% mark, but I can't, in good conscience, stand here today in front of all my wonderful listeners and say, yeah, Flacco in his first game since week 18 of 2022, he's going to go out there and drop 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Because I think if you're at a 10, that's the kind of stat line you're projecting. So I'll put myself down for Joe Flacco completing 60% of his passes, actually tick below, 57% of his passes for 213 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. I think that's somewhat reasonable for his first game as a Cleveland Brown. Now let's talk about some other injury news here. Jim Schwartz was asked about Myles Garrett and just Myles Garrett being Myles Garrett, playing through an injury. And here's what he said. I think that's something that maybe flies below the radar nationally with him a little bit, is his toughness and his ability to play through some injuries. He's going to work really hard to get back and will be prepared for everything in between. Now, I trust Jim Schwartz to adjust to not life without Myles Garrett. I saw a video of Myles Garrett doing a push-up on like a medicine ball, so a little bit like an elevated push-up, and I mean, he was just kind of cranking and knocking those things out without any sort of like discomfort or slowness or anything like that. So it looked like he was, I wouldn't say 100%, but pretty darn close to it, which is a huge testament to just how strong and gifted and why he is Superman after all, but also how tough 95 is. But I do think Myles Garrett is probably going to have, I wouldn't say a little bit of a slowdown period after this, but he's not going to be at a true 100%, which means Zadarius Smith, Okoronkwo, like those 2 guys might see some more snaps, might see some more action, and they need to step up. How about Alex Wright, by the way? A guy that I wouldn't say I ruled off my bingo card for this year, or ruled off my breakout list this year, but not a guy I had very high up on it. He's had a really good couple of games recently. Dalvin Tomlinson, he's having pretty close to a career year here as we approach the last third of the season. So I'm going to be leaning on these 4 players right here to step up a little bit without Myles Garrett on the field when it comes to the pass rush, because Smith, Okoronkwo, they've had really good years, but we're going to need a little bit of extra out of them with Myles Garrett not at 100%. Another guy that to keep an eye on is Martin Emerson. I mean, not talking about the pass rush here, but just other players stepping up, knowing, hey, our fearless leader, he's down in the dumps a little bit right now. We need to pick him up. Martin Emerson, he's been targeted 43 times this year, has allowed 19 receptions for 320 yards, no touchdowns. Jim Schwartz said, I can't believe this guy's only a second-year player, right? Just the way he plays, he looks like a 6-7-year vet, but he's got the springiness and the jump and the elusiveness and the quickness as a second-year guy. 2 interceptions and 3 pass breakups for 23. I don't know what PFF is smoking. 74 out of 120. Laughable. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, he's having a career year without a doubt. He's up to 2.5 sacks, 14 tackles for loss, 65 tackles, 1 forced fumble, and PFF, well, they're not smoking anything when they're watching JOK's tape. He's ranked 10th out of 79 qualifying linebackers. So who do you got in this game to wrap up today's show? Browns or Rams? By the way, Amari Cooper, he started practice, and then he left after like a route or 2. So not quite sure what his availability will be for Sunday. My gut feeling is he will be available, but he's probably going to be playing through an injury. Denzel Ward, unfortunately, he did not practice. I would not hold your breath on the Warden being available, which is tough with Cooper Kupp being on the other team. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to come hang out with us here on the channel. We're going to sign off, and we're going to see you all later.